I actually really love this fight between Andre Ewell and Julio Arce. The reason why is because I think that you're seeing two guys who really enjoy the idea of flirting with the bantamweight, featherweight divisions in the UFC. And Andre Ewell has already spoken about how he'd love to flirt back and forth on a regular basis. Whereas Arce, who's coming off a huge layoff, is now actually making his way back to bantamweight for the first time since he faced Brian Kelleher on the regional scene. I think that's like Ring of Combat from back in the day. So you're having really interesting junctures for both guys. Arce is itching to get back. Now coming back to 135. Ewell is trying to tell himself that he really wants to excel at 135 and then really start to do the same thing at 145 almost simultaneously. And so it all starts with this fight coming off two back-to-back female fights. I think this was really going to start to kick off the fireworks after the last two because it's just all heavy bangers in these first few fights. And so that doesn't really change much. I think Andre Ewell is going to have to use that striking to his advantage. You look at the way Julio Arce has fought in the past. The Shaman Marias fight, it almost seems like Julio Arce just really likes to fight other people's fights. Tiger Schulman's striker, I think he has the pedigree to be in the UFC as a striker, but we all know that his game plan should very much revolve around trying to get the fight to the ground, especially when the stand-up game isn't really going his way. And so that fight really kind of took me by surprise because, opened up a big gash on his head. He was bleeding everywhere. Just a lot of opportunities for him to kind of just change his game plan up, but he kept wanting to be in a striking battle with really good kickboxers. And you saw the same thing with Hakeem Dawodu. The moment he started working in a bit more of his takedowns, the fight started balancing itself out a bit. I think Hakeem Dawood had great defense to kind of roll out of some of those positions, especially when Julio was on the back. But outside of that, you think about how different the fights are looking when he's standing with some of these primo kickboxers versus when he starts to get that distance closed and he starts working in some more clinch work. Even in that Marias fight, you saw him actually threaten a few submissions in very random spots. And even if you're not threatening a true submission, it just helps you get out of these positions where you're on your back or you have a guy just filling you from the top. All those little things that he does well can help him get to the areas where he actually can find success in a fight. But as always, when guys start to get a taste of that stand-up game, they seem to love it, right? In this case, you have the length problem, right? Andre Ewell constantly has a length issue. Well, he has a length advantage and provides a length issue for a lot of the fighters. But, you talk about the Chris Gutierrez fight. I think there was almost an 8-inch reach advantage there for him. But he's stuck to the counter striker style and he's stuck to the movement style. So Chris Gutierrez, who has great kicks, great footwork, and the ability to just switch stance on the fly and just make combos happen out of nowhere, he was able to do a lot of damage, which in the third round resulted in very much a 10-8 for him. Got top position, filling the ground pound very easily. I think that was something where you just see that Andre Ewell needs to have success early in a fight. I think that the way he fights and, even pushing the pace a bit more in this case especially would help him quite a bit because I think Arce is going to have a lot more success as the fight goes on, given his good cardio, given his ability to kind of switch things up, going to the mat a bit more. That's not where Andre wants this fight. He's going to want to fight at distance. He's going to want to be landing some big shots, finish it up with some kicks. I think that Arce is a great high left kick. And the one thing about those is he's now taking on a guy with such good reach. Is he going to be able to land those things? Maybe not. It's going to be a lot of using the speed, using the athleticism, using his own footwork to try and create those openings with a guy like Andre Ewell who's going to still get that 6-7 inch reach advantage in this one too. He's a good boxer, but you don't see the volume you want to see from him. You talk about the Gutierrez fight. The volume in the beginning would have done him so much because I think that as the fight went on, the movement got him tired. And so once the movement got him tired, all of a sudden he started losing the rounds on points. And then the 10-8 was kind of the stamp of approval for the judges. And in this case, he kind of has to do the opposite because Julio Arce is very much going to do something similar. And to be quite honest, I think he's going to have a lot more success with a tired Ewell, trying to get it to the ground, trying to work in some BJJ, stuff like that. Whereas in the beginning, a fighter going back down to bantamweight for the first time in literally over 5 years, and now he's trying to gauge distance. Ewell should have a pretty good strength and size advantage here, given just the overall size there. But outside of that, it's going to be athlete versus, technical counter striker. that's just hoping to be able to outpoint a guy on the feet for 3 rounds. If he doesn't push the pace and do a lot more work early than he did against Gutierrez, I think this fight's going to go the same way, which is pretty much the path to victory for him. And it's start faster, pick your shots well, use the footwork to actually create, combos, not just to avoid shots coming from the other side or just to create movement and look good doing it. That's what makes Ewell really stand out. The footwork is there. He just has to now implement that early barrage of punches to help him really balance the fight out later when he could end up being tired from all the movement, counter punching, that kind of stuff. Whereas with Arce, man, I think that even if you want to show some confidence in your striking early, why not mix that up with some combos to threaten the takedowns? It's going to create openings on the feet, even if you want to do that more. And then also open the door to maybe some takedowns earlier in the fight. The big thing for me is if he's able to kind of avoid a lot of damage early in the fight, working those takedowns later in the fight against a guy like Ewell is going to do him really, really well. I think that he wants to avoid all that length battle anyway, and the best way to do that is catch a kick, drop him to the ground, or just bull rush in and really work it up against the fence and work that clinch work. I think that that's where Arce is going to have a lot of advantage, and if he avoids that striking game where he just seems to play the other person's fight, I think he has a very good chance of winning this fight. Outside of that, I don't think there's much more to say. I think the scrambling edge, the cardio edge, all of that goes to Arce. And so it comes down to Andre just doing that real striking style damage on the feet, working those counter strikes, gain the confidence, which should help your cardio and ability to outpoint him for 3 rounds later in the fight. And so without further ado, let's do what we do. And Julio Arce, minus 205 favorite right now, with plus 165 Andre Ewell. Looks like that the opening odds were pretty much the same. You have minus 200 for Arce, plus 170 for Andre Ewell. Some people obviously flirting between that that plus 160, plus 170 range. But, clear-cut fight, right? Tiger Schulman, beauty product in Julio Arce, who's itching to get back in there. Can't wait to watch him fight. Moving back down to bantamweight against the guy who's really just trying to prove himself at that 135, 145 back and forth style fighting. But again, it's going to start in this fight. And I think that when you look at the Chris Gutierrez fight as a, piece of evidence, it very much spells for Andre Ewell to be more active early, utilize the movement that he creates for himself, and then try to keep the point battles going later in the fight when maybe he's done enough damage to kind of merit his own side with the judges as well. So I think that's going to be the fight that really starts to take things off for this fight. The prelims end up looking like a main card for some diehard fans, so I can't wait to get into them. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.